Hello, welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King. This might be a bit of a rubbish episode. We're doing our best, but we're a bit worn down today for various reasons, so we apologise for that. Should be okay. For today, we are doing
Pictures at an Exhibition by Emerson Lake and Palmer.
That's what we're doing by special request. We weren't going to do it because we don't think there's a lot to say necessarily. This is kind of the missing track from the first album, as if there was like a third side to the first album, the big epic was in on there. It was the first thing they did together before Carl Palmer was even involved. Emerson was showing this to Greg Lake, which is interesting because Greg Lake was up for that, let's form a band, but then when Emerson suggested Targets, he wasn't into it. So that's interesting. I don't know why this is okay and that wasn't, because they're both extended neoclassical structured things with lots of esoteric music on them. Recorded before Tarkus, but released after Tarkus because the record company didn't want to release it. They wanted to put it in the classical category, and the band were worried that would hurt sales. A compromise was reached where the band released their other album first, so Tarkus came out first, and then they released this as a budget record, which I think was really clever because it must have, made people take a chance with it. And some of those people are going to hate it, some of those people are going to like it. So it was actually a very clever bit of marketing. It's Pictures at an Exhibition by Mussorgsky, which is famous.
Yeah, I believe that it was actually arranged by Rimsky-Korsakov.
What are you saying? Yeah.
After, I think Mussorgsky died, he wasn't actually that good a composer.
And Rimsky-Korsakov did a lot of his stuff.
And rearranged it and stuff like that.
Because obviously it's a major piece. I read about Emerson hearing it towards the end of the Nice, or maybe after the Nice had expired. He just happened to go to a concert and heard an orchestra play it, so he'd never heard it. It is interesting, isn't it? Because it's so famous. I mean,
It is basically pop music from the classical world.
It's what everybody hears when they go to university. It's the one everyone hears and everyone likes. It's got some cool heavy bits and big stuff on there, which is perfect for ELP, obviously. And obviously that must have informed what they were going to sound like.
In that sense, it's not very pretentious at all. I mean, let's go do a rock version, a prog version of a classical album. You think, oh, here we go, pretentious, Bartok, or Stravinsky or something like that. And to choose Pictures at an Exhibition is
something accessible and straightforward.
It is accessible.
I think I do remember when I heard the Mussorgsky, the orchestral version first, and I remember seeing this in a record shop and thinking, God, and they've actually credited it themselves. It says Emerson Mussorgsky. That's pretentious. It's not pretentious. Just to clarify, there's nothing pretentious about it at all.
You got a take on this, Vin?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's sorted. Recorded at Newcastle City Hall. I'm not quite sure about the Newcastle thing. I think possibly because they were involved with Newcastle with the Nice, because the singer and bass player was from there. They did 5 bridges, which is to do with Newcastle 5 bridges, but apparently there were more than 5 bridges, and he counted them wrong. He must have just remembered that the acoustics were good in the place. The sound is pretty good for a live album from that period, so that's pretty cool. But the real reason they chose that venue is because they had a church organ. They were allowed to use the church organ. Now, often when rock bands played these places, they weren't allowed to use the organ. Famously, when Frank Zappa played the Albert Hall, they played Louie Louie on the organ.
The Uncomplete album.
Yeah, and it's absolute mess, isn't it? Because obviously the time it takes from pressing to the stuff coming out of the pipes meant that they couldn't possibly play in time, so it's chaos. But I don't think that went down well. So generally bands weren't allowed to play the organ, but he was allowed to play the organ on this. So the initial main theme at the start is played on the big church organ, and they had to rearrange it. There's an extra drum flourish after that initial theme because he had to run from the organ down to his keyboards to get onto the next bit.
That's a live performance. I suppose we're reviewing this as a bit of a live performance.
It's a live album, isn't it? It doesn't need to be that long. Somewhere in an alternative reality, that there's the Tarkus album, and one half is this and one half is Tarkus. You could have done this as a sidelong thing. It would have been nice to have an album version, actually.
Yeah.
But it's still great. I think it helped make them famous.
Yeah.
As much as Lucky Man, them doing this, got them headlines and all that stuff. We should say there's no orchestra on this, because people might think there's an orchestra on it. There's no orchestra. It's the 3-piece playing the orchestral work. That's why it's interesting. That's why it's different.
I think they were right to release it as a budget album. If you're going to listen to Pictures at an Exhibition,
you're going to listen to Pictures at an Exhibition. Having said that, there's some bits which work fantastic. There's some bits work less well. There's some bits are just perfect for ELP. Track 1,
Promenade.
Main theme, the famous theme, played on the big organ, as I said. So that's pretty cool.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Next track,
the Gernome. This is the first really cool bit, and there's some fantastic stop-start stuff with this. The how they played it in time. Emerson would just, they're quite near to each other at this point. It's basically, it's just Palmer and Emerson, really. But Emerson's facing the other way, and he'd just go, and they're absolutely on it. It's brilliant, and obviously he's sort of playing with him a bit and then taking him by surprise, and he gets it every time. It's amazing. There is another performance around the same time where they actually filmed it, so you can see him do it as well. I don't know how they did it, and then later on, they're playing ridiculous stadiums and whatever. They're miles from each other in the dark with flashing lights,
Well,
and still.
Is it a case that this is
There were
sort
no
of...
metronomes in those days.
Is this a case that it's sort of more in Palmer's sort of comfort zone? This is the kind of thing you'd be more happy with?
That must have been what they spent those first few months doing. Diddler.
On loop.
But yeah, that's one of the best bits, I think.
Next track.
Promenade again. So back into the theme.
Next track.
Next track.
The Sage.
The Sage. Now, this was often omitted, which is a shame because it's a really good Greg Lake song. Anyway, I think it's great, and it's the folkiness that disappeared from Greg Lake's songs later on. When they came back in '77, there was no folkiness. Brilliant, and the vocals are fantastic. It's a great singer.
What do you think about putting vocals on something like this?
Well, that's the controversy, really. It's pictures an exhibition with drumming and vocals,
Yeah.
basically, isn't it? And that's the controversial bit. But this isn't part of pictures an exhibition. Actually, it's just one of Greg Lake's songs that they've put in it. There's a nice bit of folky guitar playing on there as well, which people might be surprised by. It's great. And maybe it was just he felt a bit suppressed by Emerson.
Well, yeah, I mean, there isn't a great deal to do, is there, really? I don't think his raison d'etre was to be a bass player.
No.
There's no lyrics on here, so...
Great little folky song. Brilliant.
Yeah. Next track.
The Old Castle. Right, this is... What is this?
It's, the castle... what's the island called where King Arthur went to die?
Oh, Avalon.
Avalon, that's
It's
it.
about Avalon.
This is a song about Avalon.
I didn't know that. That's interesting because I don't know... So that's from the original...
Yeah.
Pictures. I've no idea what the link is between this music here and the original pictures because
It's quite a strenuous link, but it's there nonetheless.
it must be there. But basically, this is where Emerson would do his show-offy thing. He had his Moog synthesizer, obviously. One of the sort of real cutting-edge moments was that he actually had a detachable thing he could go around and play. When I say detachable, it was on a wire. Obviously, he didn't have wireless. But basically, it was a really early version of Jordan Rudess, his weird material thing he can go on. But it was very limited. All he could do was go on it, basically. That's all it would do.
Hours and hours and hours.
And he would play it with his arse and all that kind of stuff. And it's I'm sure as a show, and they were very good at obviously making it the very sort of this inaccessible music entertaining by doing all this stuff, and that would have been great. But to sit and listen to it is questionable. Carl Palmer is doing stuff along with it to almost kind of trying to make it into a freeform improvisation. But is it really? Is it? Or it just sounds?
Yeah.
You can say that the same thing about, Richie Blackmore's guitar killings. I've got 15 live albums, officially released live albums with by smashing the guitar up. And there are moments when that's listenable, but only when the whole band is absolutely on and they're just in the zone and it's actually listenable as a piece of music, but very rarely.
As a rule, what is the purpose of listening to a live album other than fandom and showing support for the band?
Well, you're hearing the music naturally, aren't you? You're hearing the musicians play the music without.
I'm sure it's mixed. I'm sure it's mixed afterwards. Right?
It's mixed, yes, but in those days you couldn't overdub, you couldn't do much.
I suppose what you're listening to is a performance, whereas if you're buying an album, listening to a piece of crafted artwork. Yeah.
The question is it the performance or is it the texture of sounds, which is what it literally is, that matters. But not interesting enough for us to talk about it now.
Next track.
Blues Variation, which is a very lazy way of naming just a bit of ELP jamming, and there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Next track.
Promenade again. Back to the main theme.
Next track.
The Hut of Baba Yaga. This is the best bit for me. Best bit on the orchestral version as well for me. The dun 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 dun. It's just built for ELP, and I assume what that really means is that ELP is built for that. Fantastic. And sometimes they'll play it really slow, dun 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 dun, and sometimes really fast.
Next track.
Yeah. And Curse of Baba Yaga is, what is it? It's